Hey there, Lindsay here. I'm going to tell you about the coolest tool that you probably didn't even know you have access to. If you have Adobe Creative Cloud through your employer, through your school, whatever, you just might have access to the most fun and most productive generative AI tool for creating images that I have used myself. So I've already got Creative Cloud pulled up here on my Mac. You won't find this as an app. You can actually find it here on the left. It's called Adobe Firefly. It's Firefly. It's Adobe's generative AI image creating tool, or you can search for it up here and you can find Adobe Firefly. It is available on the web. So once you find it, once you log in with your Adobe login, you can bookmark this for easy access going forward. So what I really like about Adobe Firefly is two things. I really like that it has a ton of tools to help you get the exact image that you really want to create, that you're envisioning in your mind. Here's a really cute one on the screen here. Happy cute cats flying through the forest. And I also really like that Adobe Firefly was only trained on content licensed by Adobe. That means they didn't just set it free to browse the web and be trained on everything all over, including material that's copyrighted. They made a point to only train it on licensed content, such as their massive stock photo illustration library, as well as public domain content. That means content where the copyright has expired. So that is important because anything you put into generative AI is probably going to come out the other end at some point somewhere. So if you put in copyrighted content, potentially, most likely, it's going to spit out that copyrighted content someplace else. Now, Adobe is very good at making sure that their users can use this stuff commercially. It's kind of like the high bar, right? Anything you use commercially, you need to own the copyright to and have the rights to use that commercially. So you can see this below here under their FAQ. Generally, unless it's labeled otherwise, you can use anything you create with Adobe Firefly commercially. That's a really big deal. That's in contrast to ChatGPT's DALL-E feature, which was trained on copyrighted content. So if you create something with DALL-E and try to use that commercially, you could run into trouble. And that's a really big deal. Same thing if you're producing material for a client, material for your work. You could run into problems if you do create something that ends up actually including copyrighted content, and that copyright belongs to someone else outside of your institution. So, Adobe Firefly, safest choice, most powerful choice, and there's a third thing I really love. It's really great for creating images of people in particular that are of diverse backgrounds. Let's go ahead and play a game really fast before I dive in. So I've got a slide here of people in a professional work environment. Some of these were created with Adobe Firefly. Some of them were not. Which do you think is which? Go ahead, take a look. I'll give you a moment. Have you decided? Well, the big reveal is they are all created with generative AI, specifically Adobe Firefly's tool. I was working on a PowerPoint at work. It's for a professional environment. It's for people doing mostly office work. So I chose to create a variety of people that are in everyday situations. It did a really great job. I was really impressed. Every now and again, I create something that I go, that's not quite right. But here, I'll give you an example. How about person giving feedback to a subordinate in a constructive and friendly way, setting his office environment. So hit enter there. The default for Adobe Firefly is to create square images. Let's see what it comes up with. And once it does generate things here, all right, perfect. You have the option to revise according to what's on the left, or you can add on to your prompt below. So it's super flexible. So these are pretty fun images. And I just want to point out right away that it's giving us a variety of skin tones, hair colors, ethnic features. That's probably not the right word. things that signify whether someone's of a certain ethnic background, perhaps a better way to put it. You can see that person's glasses are a little bit odd there. But we got a couple of, probably look like white guys. And then we have some people of color in the back with a brown skin tone. These two are reading as maybe of an Asian background to me. This did produce all men, which is really interesting. So let's go ahead and give it another chance. I do like the variety of ethnicities and races depicted here. I am looking for photorealistic, like that Spot the AI slide. So let's choose photo here on the left. There's more options. If you are someone that knows about camera settings, you can really dive into the settings below here. I don't know anything about that. If you have other preferences for structure, how the image should be structured, an image's style, you can choose an image to use as a reference for your image, or you can upload your own. And there's lots more down here as far as effects, color and tone, lighting, camera angle. You can really become very detailed in your prompt, and Adobe recommends that you do. I'm not that creative sometimes. I'm looking for good enough for most of my PowerPoints. So let's see what it comes up with now. Here we go. All right, this is a little bit better. I think we still have a little bit of oddness here. This coffee cup is doing something weird in this hand. This person looks great to me. These guys, we're off to a good start there. Maybe I wouldn't use that one. That one's not bad. That one's pretty good. So this person's looking at the camera. There's two people here. Maybe she's giving feedback to the other person. Again, notice in this batch, we have a variety of genders and we do have a variety of ethnicities as well. I've noticed with ChatGPT's Dolly function in particular, it tends to really want to spit out white males. If you ask it for a woman, it tends to give you some images of women that can be a little upsetting. And even when you ask it to tone down the cleavage, for instance, it'll say, oh, did you want more cleavage? It doesn't actually say that. And it just gets more upsetting. So I really liked Adobe. However they designed this as really good guardrails, that it is giving you a variety of content with people that you see every day in your office. All right, let's start over and try a different prompt. How about what the future looks like according to 1960s sci-fi novels? All right, hit enter, see what it comes up with. Oh, I like this. So this style kind of tends to be the default when I'm putting in prompts that are kind of more abstract. It's kind of like a fun 1960s pulp paperback cover illustration. These are pretty fun. So on the left-hand side here, you can choose all these different filters for how to change your image. Maybe I want to make this more of a photo. I'd prefer more of a, let's say portrait. Let's say I'm writing my own retro futurist novel and I need an image for the cover of my book. So let's try photo, let's try portrait and see what it comes up with. All right. So I don't know if these look like photos. This one doesn't look bad. They're still very abstract. These look a little bit more like Star Wars concept art to me. By the way, you're not allowed to search for Star Wars. It'll tell you no. Just like ChatGPT will. But these are pretty good. I would be pretty happy using any one of these for my hypothetical novel. So again, you can really dive deep on the left-hand side here with the color and tone, camera angle. You can really go to town on playing with these settings and seeing what they do. Now, as far as I know, if you have access to Adobe Firefly as part of your Creative Cloud plan, you have the ability to use this as much as you want. I know I've used it a lot and I haven't run into any paywalls yet. And I've been really impressed with the quality of the output. Every now and then you get something that's a little bit like, oh, that's not great, like the examples we saw of the professionals earlier in the office environment, but it's generally just really excelled. And if I were producing a commercial novel that I wanted to sell, I would feel very comfortable using one of these images as my cover photo for that hypothetical book, because I know that it's not going to be something that has copyrighted content in it and I'm not going to get into trouble. So I know that one of these, for example, is not already an existing book cover somewhere, unless perhaps that book cover is in the public domain or was licensed by Adobe. But in any case, Adobe Firefly is basically guaranteeing that their content is good to use commercially, and they're going to hopefully, they say they will back me up if there were any issues with the copyright infringement, any alleged copyright infringement from using this content. So I hope you try this out. I really do think it's the neatest tool that you probably don't know about if you already have Creative Cloud. I'd love to see examples of what you're creating with it or what you want to create with it. Please let me know in the comments what you think, and I hope you enjoy.